The sky was filled with fire. The ground shook under the weight of machines, and smoke covered everything like a heavy blanket. Ryan ran across broken stone, his boots sinking into the dust. His ears rang from the noise of cannons, but he kept moving. He was a soldier of Earth, one among many, but today the war felt endless. The Fury had struck again. They were taller than humans, with sharp armor plates that grew from their skin and strange glowing eyes. Every clash with them ended in blood and ruin. Ryan had been told many times that they were the enemy, that they had no mercy, and that they would crush humanity if given the chance. Yet as he stumbled through the ruined city, something inside him told him there was more to them than just war. He passed broken walls where the marks of plasma fire still burned bright. The air was thick with the smell of burned metal. Ryan pressed his back against a fallen pillar, checking his rifle. The weapon was hot from use, its charge nearly gone. Around him, he could hear distant shouts, both human and alien. The battle was not yet finished. As he prepared to move forward, a new sound reached his ears. It was not the cry of soldiers. It was not the blast of weapons. It was softer. It was a sound of fear, a sound he knew well from his own childhood. It was the cry of the young. Ryan froze. He told himself it could not be. No children should be near this battlefield. Still, the sound returned, a series of high-pitched whimpers carried through the smoke. His heart quickened. Against every order drilled into him, he turned toward the sound. He moved carefully, crouching low, slipping through cracks between stone and steel. His body ached, but he kept going. The cries grew louder. Then, through the haze, he saw them. A small group of young aliens were huddled in the corner of a shattered building. Their skin was pale silver, their eyes bright with fright. They wore simple cloth instead of armor, and their small hands clutched each other as if holding on for life. Ryan stopped. His breath caught in his throat. They were Fury children. The very same race he had been told to fight. He lifted his rifle, then lowered it. None of them had weapons. They were no threat. They were only young lives, lost in a place where they should never have been. The children looked up at him with wide eyes. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Ryan expected screams or hatred. Instead, one of the smallest ones gave a weak sob and tried to hide its face. A blast shook the building. Dust rained from above, and part of the wall cracked. The young cried louder, their voices sharp with fear. Without thinking, Ryan rushed forward. He moved to the front of the group, spreading his arms wide. Another blast struck nearby, and shards of stone flew across the floor. The impact hit his armor, burning his side, but he stood firm. He glanced back at them. Their glowing eyes looked at him with confusion. Why would a human shield them? They did not know. Ryan himself barely knew why. His training screamed against it, yet his heart would not let him leave them. The battle outside grew closer. Stray shots struck the walls, sending sparks and fire into the room. Ryan crouched low, wrapping his arms around the nearest child. The others pressed close to him, their small hands gripping his armor. He felt their fear like a weight on his chest. Another blast tore through the roof. A beam of metal fell, crashing toward the group. Ryan pushed the children aside and threw himself under it. Pain shot through his back as the beam struck his armor. He gritted his teeth, forcing himself to hold it until the children scrambled out from beneath it. Only then did he roll aside, gasping for breath. He could hear movement outside. Voices, heavy footsteps, and the hum of alien weapons. The Fury were drawing near. Ryan knew his rifle would not hold out if they came inside. Still, he placed himself between the entrance and the children, lifting the weapon with shaky hands. The cries behind him grew softer. The young ones did not try to run. They stayed close to him, perhaps sensing he meant no harm. Ryan's chest tightened. He thought of his own little sister back home, safe on a farm far from war. He thought of how scared she would be if she were trapped in a place like this. He whispered under his breath, though the children could not understand him. "You will be safe. I'll make sure of it." The footsteps outside grew louder. Ryan's hands gripped the rifle tighter. He was one soldier against many, and he knew his strength was failing. Yet he did not step back. If the enemy came through that door, he would stand his ground. The smoke shifted, and shadows filled the doorway. Ryan's finger hovered on the trigger, but then he saw their size. These were not soldiers. The forms were too small. His heart jumped as more alien children appeared, running into the ruined building. They joined the others, their eyes lighting up with relief. It seemed this was a group that had been separated in the chaos. Ryan lowered his weapon slowly. He could not explain it, but in that moment, he knew this was no accident. Fate had placed him here, not just as a soldier, but as a shield. The sky outside thundered again, and the war still raged, but inside the broken walls of that building, something had changed. A human soldier had chosen to protect the enemy's young. And though he could not yet see it, this single choice would ripple across the stars. Ryan pressed his back against the wall, breathing hard. The young aliens pressed close to him, their glowing eyes fixed on the man who had taken the blows for them. For the first time since the battle began, Ryan felt no anger, only purpose. Ryan felt the heat of battle still pressing against him, though he was now inside the ruined building with the alien children. Dust clung to his hair and clothes, and a dull ache ran through his arms and back from taking the last blast. The children huddled close to him, their small bodies trembling. He could feel their fear, and it reminded him of the first time he had faced real danger in training. Back then, he had been scared for himself. Now, his fear was only for them. He quickly scanned the room. Broken beams hung from the ceiling, and the floor was uneven with rubble. There was no way out through the front, the fighting outside had made the streets deadly. The children looked up at him, their glowing eyes reflecting a mixture of confusion and hope. They did not speak, but Ryan understood. They wanted safety. He reached for his communicator, hoping to contact his unit. Static filled the device. The war had damaged all communication lines in the city. Ryan cursed under his breath. There was no help coming, not yet. He had to keep them safe on his own. A sudden crash shook the walls. Ryan dove toward the children, pulling them down as a piece of ceiling fell near them. Dust filled the air, making it hard to breathe. His back scraped against rubble, but he ignored the pain. One by one, he made sure every child was unharmed. When the dust settled, he looked at them. They were silent, but their eyes watched him carefully. They seemed to understand that he had saved them. Minutes passed, but the battle did not quiet. Strange hums and low roars came from outside. Ryan knew the Fury soldiers were still moving through the city. He glanced at the children again. They were too small to run or hide alone. He made a decision. If he wanted them to survive, he had to face the danger himself. Ryan stood up slowly, keeping himself between the children and the entrance. His rifle was in his hands, ready, but he knew ammunition was low. The first shots came shortly after. Sparks flew as energy blasts hit the walls near him. Ryan took aim and fired back, hitting the approaching machines of the enemy soldiers. He could feel each blast as it grazed nearby, but he did not flinch. One child, the smallest, tried to move closer to him. Ryan knelt down and wrapped an arm around the child. "Stay behind me," he said softly. The child nodded, hugging his side tightly. The other children moved as close as they could without falling over each other. The enemy approached faster now. The sounds of their armor clanking and weapons charging filled the ruined street outside. Ryan could see their shadows through the broken windows. He could not run, not with these children depending on him. He took a deep breath and prepared himself. The first blast struck him directly in the chest. The impact threw him backward, knocking the wind out of him. Pain shot through his body, but he rolled to his feet. One child screamed, but Ryan waved his hand to calm them. "I've got you. I will protect you," he said, his voice firm despite the pain. Another blast hit near the doorway. Dust and debris flew across the room. Ryan gritted his teeth and charged toward the entrance. He fired his rifle at the enemies who tried to enter. Each shot forced them back slightly. Still, there were too many. He knew he could not hold them off forever. A large piece of metal fell from the ceiling, heading straight toward the children. Without hesitation, Ryan dove in front of them, taking the full force of the impact. Pain exploded across his body as the metal struck him. He grunted but rolled quickly to protect the children. When he looked up, they were safe, huddled behind a small wall of rubble he had pushed in front of them. He struggled to his feet, blood running down his side. His armor was cracked, and he felt weakness creeping in. But he could not stop. Not when the children still needed him. The young ones began to move closer, sensing that he was their shield. They were too small to fight, but they had something stronger: trust. They trusted this human who had risked everything to save them. Ryan felt a strange warmth in his chest. For the first time in the battle, he felt that maybe this fight was not entirely hopeless. The enemy was relentless. Blasts continued to hit the walls, and small fires began to spread. Ryan fired his last rounds, hitting anything that came close. Then he threw himself against a heavy beam, using it as a shield for the children. One by one, they crawled behind him, hiding from the chaos outside. Time seemed to stretch. Every minute was an eternity. Ryan could hear the cries of soldiers, the roar of machines, and the frightened whispers of the children. He thought of home, of the people he had left behind, and of all the friends who might never return. Yet he did not falter. His mind focused only on the children in front of him. A shadow appeared at the entrance. It was one of the Viuri warriors, taller than Ryan had imagined. It paused for a moment, its glowing eyes fixed on the human who dared protect their young. Ryan did not fire. He raised his hand slightly and stood tall, despite the pain. The warrior stepped closer. For a heartbeat, silence filled the room. Ryan could see the armor of the warrior, the intricate designs, and the way its eyes studied him. Then it did something unexpected. It paused and looked at the children. Slowly, it lowered its weapon. Ryan felt a small hope growing inside him. Other shadows appeared behind the first warrior. More Viuri soldiers stepped into the room. Ryan's heart raced. They could attack at any moment. Yet none of them moved aggressively. Their eyes were on the children, and slowly, a strange understanding passed between the human and the aliens. Ryan's knees ached, his body trembled, and his armor was battered. He knew he had taken more than any human should survive. Yet he smiled faintly, realizing something powerful: courage did not belong to one species. Protecting the innocent was stronger than fear or hatred. The children looked at him with trust and wonder. For Ryan, that was enough. He did not need orders, medals, or recognition. He only needed to keep them safe, even if it cost him everything. The sound of distant engines signaled that the battle outside was shifting. Ryan did not know if help would come, or if the city would fall. But for now, inside this ruined building, one soldier had stood against the storm. One human had chosen to take the blows for those too small to defend themselves. Ryan barely had time to catch his breath when a strange sound echoed through the ruined building. It was not the blasts of weapons or the roar of machines. It was a low hum, steady and powerful. The children flinched, pressing themselves closer to him. Their glowing eyes reflected fear, but also curiosity. Ryan squinted through the smoke and dust. At first, he thought it was more enemy soldiers coming. But the hum grew louder, vibrating through the walls and the floor. The building trembled as a shadow passed across the broken ceiling. Then he saw them. Tall figures moved toward the entrance. Their bodies glimmered with light, and their armor was unlike anything Ryan had seen. It was not the rough, battle-worn armor of regular soldiers. This armor seemed alive, flowing over their bodies in smooth lines. At the front, a taller figure stepped forward. She moved with grace and power, her glowing eyes scanning the room. Ryan instinctively stood in front of the children. He held his rifle tightly, ready for whatever came. But he noticed something strange. These beings did not carry weapons in the same way. Their hands were empty, yet there was a sense of authority in every step they took. The tallest figure reached the doorway and paused. Her eyes rested on the children huddled behind him. Ryan's chest tightened. He had protected them through blasts and fire, but now he faced a new kind of danger, one he did not understand. The children whispered softly among themselves, unsure of what to do. Ryan knelt slightly, speaking in a calm voice. "It is all right. Stay behind me. I will not let anything happen to you." The figure moved closer, her presence filling the room. Ryan could feel the energy around her, like a field of calm yet undeniable power. She was the leader, he realized. Not just any warrior, but someone important, someone who could decide their fate. "Human," she said. Her voice was clear, strong, yet gentle. Ryan could not understand her words at first, but the tone carried meaning. It was not anger. It was not threat. It was command and curiosity combined. Ryan lowered his weapon slightly, though he remained cautious. "I am here to protect them," he said, gesturing to the children. "They are not soldiers. They are young. I will not let them get hurt." The leader's glowing eyes widened slightly. She studied him for a long moment. Then, with a slow movement, she signaled the others to halt. The other figures froze at the entrance, watching the room but keeping their distance. The children looked up at Ryan. Some were trembling, but they seemed to sense that this figure was different. There was no immediate danger, only observation. One child, braver than the rest, stepped a little closer to Ryan's side. He placed a protective hand on the small figure, as if silently saying, "I will not leave you." The leader moved forward again. She knelt slightly, bringing her face level with the children. They gasped softly, their eyes wide. She reached out a hand, but not in attack. Her gesture was gentle, almost protective. Ryan watched carefully. His body ached, his armor was broken, and his energy was low, but he could not let his guard down. Still, he felt something he had not felt in days, a strange sense of hope. Perhaps these beings were not just enemies. Perhaps they could understand courage, even across species. The leader's gaze shifted from the children to Ryan. Then, slowly, she spoke again. This time, he understood her words, not in language, but in meaning. She was asking why he had risked his life for her young. Ryan thought of the blasts, the falling debris, and the fear in their eyes. Because no child should die in war, he said simply. I do not care who they are. I only know they are small and afraid, and I will protect them. The leader's eyes softened. She seemed to study him in a way that went beyond the surface. Her warriors remained at the entrance, tense but obedient. She continued to watch him, and for the first time, Ryan felt that someone not human was judging him by his actions, not by his uniform or side in the war. Then, unexpectedly, she nodded. Her gesture was slow but firm. She turned slightly and spoke to her warriors. Their postures relaxed, and their weapons were lowered. The tension in the room eased. Ryan could not believe what he was seeing. They had come to fight humans, yet now they were not attacking him. The leader extended her hand toward him, not threatening, but inviting. Ryan hesitated. His instincts told him danger could still be near, but he also realized something important. This being, this queen, or leader, recognized his courage. She understood what he had done for her young. He stepped forward cautiously. The children watched closely, some hiding behind him still. Ryan reached out and allowed her hand to hover near his arm. There was no energy blast, no trap, only the feeling of acknowledgement. She was thanking him, in her own way, for keeping the young safe. A sense of relief swept through the room. The children began to smile softly, slowly gaining confidence. One of the braver children stepped forward and touched Ryan's shoulder. He looked at the leader and then back at Ryan. It was a simple gesture, but it carried trust. Ryan nodded at the child. You are safe now, he said. His voice carried strength and calm. The leader seemed to approve. She glanced at the children once more, then at Ryan. Without warning, a deep hum filled the room. The floor vibrated as a section of the wall slid open, revealing a platform leading upward. The leader gestured toward it. Ryan understood that she was offering him a choice, come with them or stay. His mind raced. He wanted to protect the children, yet he also knew that staying might put them in more danger if the battle returned. He looked at the children. Their trust in him was clear. He could not abandon them now. Yet the leader's gesture carried an opportunity, a chance to ensure their safety in ways he could not alone. Finally, he nodded slightly. I will go with you, he said. Only if my young ones are safe too. The leader's eyes glowed softly. She stepped closer, gently lifting the smallest children one by one, placing them on her platform. The older ones followed, their steps guided by the queen and her warriors. Ryan stayed behind just long enough to ensure that none were left behind. When the last child was safe, he stepped onto the platform. The queen watched him carefully, her eyes filled with an intensity that made him aware of the importance of his choice. The platform began to rise, and Ryan felt the vibration through his boots. The ruined building faded below them, and he realized that his life and the lives of the children had changed forever. He glanced at the children. They looked at him with trust, and he smiled faintly despite the fatigue and pain. The Queen's hand hovered near his shoulder, not touching, only observing. Ryan understood that she would not harm him, but she would watch him. His actions in the coming days would matter. For the first time since the battle began, Ryan felt a strange calm. The war raged below them, but above, in the presence of the alien leader and the children he had protected, he realized that courage, mercy, and trust could cross any boundary. This was not the end of the fight, but it was a new beginning. One human soldier had acted for the innocent, and that choice had drawn the attention of a being far greater than any enemy he had faced. Ryan took a deep breath, ready to face whatever came next. The Queen's eyes watched him, and he knew that his actions had just begun to shape the future. The platform rose smoothly above the ruined city. Ryan watched the landscape below him, scarred by battle and fire. Smoke curled into the sky, and broken buildings stretched across the horizon. He had never seen destruction like this before, yet he could not dwell on it. His attention was on the children and the figure standing beside him, the alien queen who had chosen not to harm him. Her name was Alira, though Ryan did not know it yet. She moved with grace, her glowing eyes scanning the children as they adjusted to the safety of the platform. She watched Ryan as well, her gaze sharp but not hostile. It was a look of curiosity, tinged with something deeper, like she was trying to understand him without words. Ryan adjusted the straps of his armor and checked the children. They clung to one another, some hiding behind him, while others peeked around cautiously. He knelt beside the smallest child. "You are safe," he said softly. "I promise." The child nodded, hugging his arm. Alira observed quietly, her energy pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. Finally, she spoke, and this time Ryan understood her meaning. Her words were simple in intent, though the sound was unlike human language. She asked why he had risked his life for her young when they were supposed to be the enemy. Ryan hesitated. He had no simple answer for someone who had never known humans. Then he said, "Because they are children. They do not belong in war. I protect those who cannot protect themselves. It does not matter who they are." Alira's eyes narrowed, studying him. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she gestured to the children, who now looked up at her with cautious curiosity. The Queen's presence was commanding, yet calm. Ryan realized that she could have chosen to strike him down for his boldness, yet she did not. "I do not understand your species," Alira said at last, her voice steady. "You fight us, yet you save our young. You risk your life willingly. Why?" Ryan looked at her. He wanted to explain, but the words were simple, "Because protecting the innocent is right. Even if they are not like me. Even if they are my enemy." He paused, thinking carefully. Strength is not only in fighting. It is in mercy too. Alira seemed taken aback. Her glowing eyes softened slightly, though her posture remained regal. She had commanded soldiers and ruled her people with precision, yet this human had acted in a way she had never seen. Her children were safe because of his choices, and for the first time, she felt a mixture of respect and uncertainty. The platform began to slow as it approached the massive structure of Alira's ship. It hovered in the sky, enormous and smooth, its surface glowing faintly. The children pressed close to Ryan, looking up at the enormous vessel. Ryan's heart raced. He had never been inside an alien ship, let alone one of this size and authority. Alira led them inside. The interior was vast and filled with soft light. The walls pulsed faintly, as if alive, and the air was warm and calm. The children looked around in awe, forgetting for a moment the battle they had just survived. Ryan followed closely, his senses alert. He did not lower his guard completely. Alira guided the children to a safe area, soft platforms where they could rest and recover. She watched them carefully, her glowing eyes scanning for any sign of fear or injury. Ryan knelt beside one of the older children, adjusting their small cloak. He realized how tired he was. His body ached, but he felt a deep satisfaction. The children were alive, safe, and beginning to trust him. Then Alira approached him again. She circled him slowly, examining him like an expert studying a specimen. "You have courage," she said. "You have protected my young when you had no reason to do so. Yet you belong to the species we are at war with. Tell me, human, why do you act this way?" Ryan wiped the sweat from his brow. "I do what I must. I protect the innocent. I do not care if they are enemy or friend. I care about life." His voice was calm, though his body still throbbed with pain. "That is what humans do. We fight, yes, but we also care. Even for those we are told to hate." Alira's gaze softened further. She seemed to ponder his words deeply. She had seen warriors and leaders, but none had risked everything for another species. She had seen tactics, strategy, and honor, but mercy on this scale was rare. The human before her had acted not from fear or obedience, but from a principle he had chosen himself. "Your species is strange," she said. "You speak of care while you fight. You speak of mercy while you risk death. Perhaps there is more in humanity than I believed." Ryan nodded slightly. "There is more in all of us than you see at first. We make mistakes, yes, but we can also choose to be better." Alira's warriors had gathered nearby, silently observing the interaction. Their glowing eyes reflected curiosity, respect, and in some, confusion. They had never witnessed such behavior. For the first time, they saw a human not as an enemy, but as someone worthy of consideration. Ryan felt the weight of her gaze. He knew that in the coming days, he would be observed closely. Every action he took, every word he spoke, would be judged by this queen and her people. Yet he did not falter. He was a soldier, yes, but now he was more than that. He was a protector, a bridge between species, and perhaps even a teacher in a small way. The children began to play quietly, exploring the soft platforms. Their laughter was faint but filled the room with warmth. Ryan watched them, feeling a rare sense of peace. He had survived the battlefield, protected the young, and now stood in a place of calm within enemy territory. It was strange, yet comforting. Alira stepped closer again. "You will stay with us for now," she said. "You will teach us, if we can learn from you. You will protect the children, and in doing so, you may change how we see humanity." Ryan felt a surge of responsibility. "I will do my best," he said simply. "I cannot promise perfection, but I will not fail the children." The queen's eyes glowed softly. She nodded, a gesture of approval and trust. She had seen courage, mercy, and strength. Ryan had acted not from orders, not from fear, not from ambition, but from principle. That simple choice had drawn her attention, and in her mind, a new possibility was forming, a chance for understanding between species that had only known war. Ryan realized that his journey had changed. He was no longer just a soldier on a battlefield. He was a human who had acted for what was right, and that act had begun to ripple through the universe in ways he could not yet measure. The queen turned, signaling the warriors to give them space. Ryan watched the children, feeling a deep sense of purpose. He had protected them, yes, but now he would guide them, help them understand trust and courage. His life, and theirs, was no longer bound solely to war. It was bound to something greater, hope. Ryan stood in the central hall of Alira's ship, watching the children explore cautiously. The walls pulsed with soft light, and the floor beneath them hummed faintly as if alive. The children had begun to relax, their small faces curious and excited. Some ran their fingers along the glowing walls, others examined floating panels that displayed shifting symbols. Ryan followed them closely, careful to keep an eye on all of them. Even in this safe environment, he could not forget the dangers of the battlefield. Yet, as he observed, he felt a warmth he had not felt in months. The children were safe. They were laughing softly, sharing smiles with each other, and learning that the world was not only filled with war. Alira watched silently from a distance, her glowing eyes fixed on Ryan. She seemed intrigued by his patience and care. Her warriors stood in the background, alert but respectful. For the first time, Ryan noticed that they watched not with suspicion, but with curiosity. His actions had changed the way they saw him, and perhaps the way they saw humans. One of the older children approached Ryan cautiously. "You protect us," the child said in halting words, its small voice trembling. Ryan knelt to be at eye level. "Yes," he said softly. "I will protect you as long as I can. No harm will come to you while I am here." The child's eyes brightened. It touched his hand briefly, a gesture of trust. Ryan smiled, feeling a deep sense of responsibility. Each child's trust was a small victory, a bond formed not through language or command, but through courage and care. Alira moved closer, stepping beside Ryan. "You are patient with them," she said, her voice calm and steady. "Even with our young, you show no fear, no anger. You do not demand obedience, yet they follow your guidance." Ryan straightened, brushing dust from his armor. "They need guidance, not fear," he said simply. "They need someone to show them that they are safe and cared for. That is what I can do for them." Alira studied him, her glowing eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and respect. "Humans act strangely," she said. "You risk life for those who are not your own. You speak of care even in war. Perhaps there is more to your species than I believed." Ryan nodded. "There is always more," he said. "Even in war, even in fear, humans can choose to protect and to care. That choice is stronger than any weapon." The children began to gather near them, forming a small circle. Ryan crouched and began to speak gently, explaining simple lessons: how to move safely, how to stay calm, and how to look out for each other. His words were simple, but the meaning was clear. The children listened, their bright eyes fixed on him. Alira watched silently, occasionally nodding. She observed how Ryan spoke, how he moved, and how the children responded. His courage and patience were unlike anything she had seen among humans or Viuri alike. It was not the strength of the body, but the strength of the mind and heart that impressed her. One of the smaller children tripped over a glowing platform. Ryan caught the child gently, steadying it before it could fall. "See," he said softly, "even small mistakes can be fixed if someone is careful." He smiled at the child, and the others watched, learning silently through example. Alira approached a young one who had been quiet. She reached out a hand, and the child hesitated. Then Ryan spoke gently, "It is safe. She will not harm you." The child nodded slowly, and Alira allowed the hand to rest briefly on its shoulder. The small gesture was enough. Trust, once fragile, began to grow. The day passed quietly. Ryan moved among the children, guiding, teaching, and comforting. He shared small stories of Earth, of humans, and their lives. He explained games, simple lessons, and the importance of kindness. The children listened eagerly, absorbing everything. Their laughter began to fill the space, blending with the soft hum of the ship. Alira watched quietly from a distance, yet her eyes followed Ryan constantly. She could see the bond forming, a connection stronger than fear or command. The children were learning not just safety, but trust, courage, and care. And they were learning it from a human. One of the warriors approached Ryan, stepping lightly. "Human," the warrior said, its voice low and formal. "You teach our young. They follow your guidance without fear. How do you command such trust?" Ryan looked at the warrior, his expression calm. "I do not command," he said. "I protect. I guide. I show them that they are safe. That is enough. Fear is not the same as trust. Trust must be earned, not demanded." The warrior considered his words silently, then nodded slightly. Alira's eyes flicked toward him, approving the exchange. Ryan realized that he was influencing not just the children, but the adults around them as well. His courage, patience, and care were spreading beyond simple protection. As the sun of distant stars shifted through the ship's observation windows, Ryan felt a strange sense of peace. The children played quietly nearby, exploring safely, and the Queen watched him with a curiosity that was almost warmth. For the first time in a long while, he felt that the war outside could be changed, one small act at a time. Later, Ryan sat with the children on a soft platform. He told them simple stories of bravery, not of fighting, but of helping, protecting, and caring. The children listened, their eyes wide, absorbing every word. He could see understanding growing in them, the knowledge that strength was not only in battle, but in mercy and courage. Alira approached and sat silently nearby. Her gaze shifted between the children and Ryan. She had watched warriors for centuries, yet none had acted with this combination of courage, patience, and care. She realized that his actions were not just helping her young, they were teaching a lesson that could last a lifetime. "You are teaching more than they know," she said softly. "Even I am learning from you." Ryan looked at her. "It is simple," he said. "Protect those who cannot protect themselves. Care for those in fear. Strength is shown not only by fighting, but by standing for what is right." Alira nodded slowly, her eyes reflecting faint light. She could feel the truth in his words. It was a human principle, yet it transcended species. The bond between Ryan and the children had grown stronger. Trust had been earned, courage had been demonstrated, and the Queen herself had begun to understand humanity in a new way. As the ship moved silently through the sky, Ryan knew that his life had changed. He was no longer only a soldier of Earth. He was a protector, a teacher, and a symbol of what humans could offer beyond war. The children were safe, and their trust in him had begun to build something larger, a hope that might reach even beyond the stars. And as Alira watched him with careful eyes, Ryan realized that the choices he had made, simple choices to protect and care, were shaping not just the lives of the children, but the perspective of an entire species. In that quiet moment, amidst laughter, soft lights, and the gentle hum of the alien ship, a human soldier had begun to create a bridge between two worlds, showing that courage and compassion were more powerful than any weapon. The hum of Alira's ship filled the air as Ryan guided the children through another section of the vessel. The soft glow from the walls reflected off their small faces, highlighting their curiosity and wonder. Every child seemed more confident now, some even skipping ahead to touch the glowing panels that shifted with color and light. Ryan kept a careful eye on them. Each step they took was a lesson in trust and caution. He noticed how much they had changed since the battle. Their fear was fading, replaced by curiosity and hope. Ryan felt a quiet pride, though he reminded himself that the real test was not over yet. Alira followed silently, observing the human closely. Her glowing eyes reflected a mixture of curiosity and cautious admiration. She had seen humans in battle, and she had observed them as conquerors, survivors, and warriors. But Ryan's behavior was different. It was not about strength or tactics, it was about protecting those who could not protect themselves. Suddenly, the ship shook. A low alarm echoed through the hallways. Ryan steadied himself, scanning the children quickly. The older ones grabbed his hands instinctively, and he held them close. "Stay calm," he said firmly. "Follow me, and do exactly what I say." Alira's warriors appeared, moving with precision. "Intruders in the lower deck," one reported. Their voices were calm, but the tone carried urgency. Ryan's heart raced. He had survived countless dangers, but now the threat was not distant, it was inside the very ship that had become a sanctuary. Ryan looked at the children. "We will protect each other," he said. "Do not be afraid. I will keep you safe." The words were simple, yet they carried authority. The children nodded, trusting him completely. Alira stepped closer. "Human," she said. "Some of my advisors wish to use you as leverage. They see your presence as dangerous. They want to control your actions for the future of our people." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Then I must prove them wrong," he said. "I will not be used as a weapon. I will only act to protect the children." The Queen studied him carefully. Her glowing eyes seemed to pierce through his very being. "Do you understand the risk?" she asked. "You could be harmed, or worse. Your choices affect more than your life." Ryan nodded firmly. "I understand. But I cannot abandon those who trust me. Even if it means danger to myself, I must act for them. That is my choice." Alira's gaze softened. She stepped back, giving him space to act. "Very well," she said. "Show us the meaning of trust, human. Prove that courage and care can surpass fear and strategy." The intruders moved closer. Ryan took a deep breath, placing himself between the children and the approaching threat. His rifle was ready, but he also knew that force alone might not be the answer. He would need strategy, courage, and careful decisions to ensure everyone's safety. The first intruder appeared at the end of the hallway. It was a Viari warrior, its armor dark and sleek. It froze when it saw Ryan standing firmly before the children. The human's stance was confident, his eyes steady despite the tension. "You cannot harm them," Ryan said firmly, his voice carrying through the hall. "These children are not your enemies. If you attack, I will stop you." The warrior hesitated, sensing the resolve in his words. Ryan noticed that its weapon remained raised, but the hands were slightly unsteady. He knew that the challenge was not just physical, it was about proving that protection and care were stronger than fear. Another intruder appeared, then another. Ryan stood his ground, positioning the children behind soft barriers he had discovered along the hallway. He guided them to crouch safely, instructing them silently with gestures. Their trust in him allowed them to stay calm. Alira watched closely. The Queen's eyes followed each move, observing how Ryan acted under pressure. He was not fighting recklessly. He was using his mind, his courage, and his principles to protect the young and prevent unnecessary harm. The intruders moved closer, yet Ryan's presence seemed to give them pause. Perhaps they had never encountered a human who did not attack without reason. Perhaps they had never seen one who fought only to protect, rather than to destroy. Ryan took a deep breath and spoke again. Leave them. They are not your enemies. They are young. Trust me, and no one will be harmed. His voice carried authority, but also calm. It was not a threat, it was a promise. The intruders hesitated. The first warrior lowered its weapon slightly. Others glanced at each other. Ryan realized that he had the chance to change not just the outcome of this encounter, but the perception of humans in their eyes. Alira stepped forward. You see, she said to her warriors. Courage and care are not weakness. This human acts from principle, not fear or force. Observe, and learn. Ryan nodded to the Queen, feeling her approval as a quiet strength behind him. The intruders slowly retreated, their confidence shaken by the resolve of one human soldier who chose protection over aggression. The children looked up at Ryan, their eyes wide with admiration and trust. He smiled faintly, exhausted but proud. See, he said softly. Strength is not only in fighting. It is in standing for what is right. Alira's warriors began to whisper among themselves, understanding dawning in their expressions. They had witnessed the choice of trust, courage, and protection. One soldier turned to another and nodded. It was clear that Ryan's actions had left a lasting impression. The Queen's gaze returned to him, her eyes glowing softly. You have shown us that human courage is not only in battle, but in mercy and care. You have protected those who cannot protect themselves, and you have changed the perspective of those around you. Ryan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. I do what I must, he said simply. These children trust me, and I will not fail them. That is the only choice I can make. Alira stepped closer, placing her hand lightly near his shoulder. The gesture was subtle, yet it carried recognition and respect. Your actions will not be forgotten, she said. You have earned the trust of our young and the respect of our people. Even those who doubted will see the strength in your courage. The children gathered around him again, their small hands reaching for his arms and armor. Ryan felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had faced danger, uncertainty, and even mistrust, yet he had remained steadfast. The bond between him and the children had grown stronger, and now the Queen herself recognized the power of his principles. The intruders had been driven back, and the immediate danger had passed. Yet Ryan knew that the real challenge was ongoing. Every action, every choice, would continue to shape the trust between humans and the Fury. He had proven courage, yes, but now he had to maintain it and show that protection and care could lead to lasting peace. Alira's voice cut through his thoughts. You will stay under observation, she said softly. Not as a prisoner, but as one who guides and protects. Your courage has created a path for understanding, and now it is up to you to continue walking it. Ryan nodded. I will, he said. For the children, and for anyone who needs protection. That is what I am here to do. The Queen stepped back, allowing him to gather the children. As they moved through the halls, Ryan realized that the trust he had earned had not only saved lives today, but had also planted a seed of hope that could grow into something greater. One human soldier had stood for what was right, and that simple act had begun to change the hearts and minds of those around him. Ryan stood at the observation deck of Alira's ship, looking down at the city below. Smoke still rose from the battle, but the streets were quieter now. The war had not ended, but today, a small part of it had changed. Children were safe, and trust had begun to grow between humans and the Vuori. The children played nearby, laughing softly as they explored the soft platforms and glowing panels. Ryan watched them carefully, smiling faintly. Each smile, each moment of confidence, reminded him why he had chosen to protect them. Their trust was his reward, their safety his purpose. Alira approached silently. Her glowing eyes reflected the soft lights of the ship. She stopped beside him, observing the city and then turning her gaze toward the children. "You have done more than protect them," she said. "You have taught them courage, patience, and trust. You have shown them what it means to care without fear." Ryan nodded, his expression calm. "That is the only way to survive and grow," he said. "Strength is not in fighting alone. It is in protecting, teaching, and caring for those who cannot defend themselves." Alira studied him closely. "Your actions have shifted more than the hearts of our young," she said. "Even my warriors see the meaning of courage in a new way. They see that humans are capable of more than war and strategy. They are capable of mercy, of compassion, of principles that guide them even when no one is watching." Ryan looked at the children again. Some were gathered near the platforms, quietly sharing stories and laughter. Others explored the ship, discovering its wonders and marveling at its technology. He had come to this place as a soldier, a human in a foreign war. Now, he was a protector, a teacher, and a bridge between worlds. A soft hum filled the room as Alira spoke again. "The council will meet soon," she said. "They wish to decide your fate. Some will see you as a threat, others as an opportunity. But I have seen your actions, human. You have earned their respect, and mine. Your choices may shape the future of our peoples." Ryan nodded slowly. "I do not act for recognition," he said. "I act for what is right. If that earns respect, it is a result of the choice, not the goal." Alira's glowing eyes softened. "Wise words," she said. "Few of my species speak with such clarity and purpose. You have made a difference, human. Perhaps even more than you realize." Suddenly, the ship shifted slightly. The children paused, looking up at the walls and ceiling as soft vibrations moved through the deck. Ryan's instincts went alert immediately. "Stay calm," he said, crouching slightly. "We are safe here. Nothing will harm you." Alira moved closer to the children, her presence calming and protective. "This is a small test," she said softly. "Even here, dangers may appear. Your courage and care must guide them." Ryan looked around the deck. His mind raced, considering possibilities. He knew that the battles outside could still reach them. He also knew that the choices he had made had changed more than immediate outcomes, they had influenced perception and trust. And that trust was now a shield stronger than any weapon. The council chamber opened above, and Alira gestured for Ryan to follow. He gathered the children, moving carefully with them as they climbed to the chamber. The warriors fell back slightly, showing respect and deference. This was a new moment, one that had been built through trust, courage, and consistent care. Inside the chamber, the council waited. Figures sat in a semicircle, their glowing eyes observing him. Some were skeptical, some curious, but all were aware of the human who had protected their young. Ryan stepped forward, kneeling slightly to be at their level, showing no fear but a quiet confidence. Alira spoke first. This human, Ryan, has acted for the young of our species without command, without fear, and without expectation. He has shown courage, patience, and care. His actions have earned the trust of those he protects and the respect of those who observe him. The council members murmured among themselves. Some nodded, others remained silent, but all were watching closely. Ryan's presence, calm and unwavering, carried weight that went beyond language. One of the council members finally spoke. "You risked your life for our young. Why?" Ryan looked at them, his expression firm. "Because they are innocent," he said. "Because they deserve protection. Strength is not only measured by fighting or winning battles. It is measured by courage, care, and the choice to do what is right, even when it is dangerous. I chose to protect them because it is right, not because it benefits me or my species." The council was silent for a long moment. Then another member nodded slowly. "Perhaps this human teaches a lesson we have forgotten," the figure said. "Courage is not only in battle. Care is strength. Mercy is power." Alira's eyes glowed softly. "Yes," she said. "That is what I have seen. That is why I trust him, and why our young trust him." Ryan stood quietly, observing the council. He had not sought approval, yet he realized that his choices had influenced not just the immediate safety of the children, but the understanding of his entire species by theirs. Courage and compassion had become a bridge, one small act at a time. The council rose slowly, a sign of respect in their culture. Alira nodded at him. "You will remain with us," she said. "Not as a prisoner, but as a guardian and teacher. Your actions have begun to shape our people's understanding of humanity, and your influence will grow as you continue to act with courage and care." Ryan felt a deep sense of purpose. "I will do my best," he said simply. "For the children, for their safety, and for the choices that matter." The council members nodded, their expressions reflecting respect, curiosity, and cautious optimism. Ryan realized that this moment was a turning point. He had come to protect the children, but he had also shown that humans could act beyond war, beyond fear, and beyond boundaries. The children gathered near him again, their small hands reaching out for reassurance. Ryan smiled, bending slightly to greet them. "We are safe," he said softly. "Together, we can face anything." Alira watched the scene quietly, her eyes reflecting light and understanding. The Queen had witnessed courage, compassion, and patience, and in Ryan's actions, she saw hope for a future where humans and Viuri could understand each other. As the sun of distant stars shifted through the observation windows, Ryan looked out at the city below. The battle would continue, but the lives he had protected, the trust he had built, and the courage he had shown would endure. One human soldier had chosen to act for the innocent, and that choice had created a ripple that could change the fate of two species. Alira stepped beside him, her presence calm and commanding. "You have begun a new path, Ryan," she said. "A path where courage and care guide action. Where trust can build bridges stronger than weapons. The children and your actions are proof that even amidst conflict, hope and understanding can flourish." Ryan nodded, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment and purpose. "Then I will continue," he said. "I will protect, guide, and act for what is right, no matter the danger. That is my duty, and my choice." The children laughed softly nearby, their trust in him unbroken, their safety ensured. The Queen watched with quiet respect. Ryan knew that the journey ahead would have challenges, but he also knew that courage, care, and choice could create a new beginning, one human act at a time.